Good morning, everyone. To begin with, since life began on Earth, countless organisms have come and gone. Extinction is said to be part of natural order. Bagamat marami pang iba't ibang uri ng hayop at halaman ang natitira, our government is trying to hamper this extinction process. But the question is, why do they do that? The very simple reason for this is that the endangered and threatened species play significant role to the nation and its people. These pictures are examples of species and some areas that are of national significance. This is the pit viper, which can be found in Mount Isarog Natural Park, the Bongsanglay Natural Park located in Masbate. This is the Mount Mayon Natural Park situated in Albay. This is pitcher plant found in Abasig Matugdon, Mananap Natural Biotic Area. The Buhi Wildlife Sanctuary in Camarines Sur. This is the Coleto and Kingfisher in Mount Mayo Natural Park, and we also have here the Rafflesia, which can also be found in Abasig Matugdon, Mananap Natural Biotic Area. For this topic, we will be discussing national parks and wildlife conservation efforts in the Philippines for the protection of flora and fauna and those that are highly significant areas. To date, extinction is not only happening because of natural process, but also because of different human activities. The increasing population, resource exploitation, and industrial advancement results to the continuous degradation of habitat where different organisms depend. I want to show you these 30-second videos. The first video is regarding wildlife, and the second video is concerning habitat. This is for the wildlife.
Bawat uri ng buhay ay mahalaga para sa isa't isa. Maaaring isipin na ang isang uri ng ibon ay pwedeng wala sa likas na tirahan nito. Subalit, kung wala ang ibong ito, dadami ang pesting kinakain nito. Pesting pagkain naman ay palay, lubos na sumisira sa taniman. Pagkalugi sa hanapbuhay ng magsasaka, dulot din ay kakulangan ng bigas sa mga palengke. Kaya kung wala ang ibong ito, paano na ang kabuhayan nila? Paano na ang bigas natin? Kung wala yun, wala nito.
This is for their habitat.
May mga bundok na malawak ang kagubatan, natirahan na maraming uri ng hayop. Dahil sa likas na ganda, magandang tanawin at pasyalan nito. Nagkakaroon ng hanapbuhay ang mamamayang nakatira sa paligid nito. Kainan, tindahan, tirahan, at kung ano-ano pang mga negosyo. Mahalaga na manatiling maayos ang bundok at kagubatan. Kung ito ay masira at mawalan ng likas na ganda, paano na ang kanilang kabuhayan? Paano na ang ating pasyalan? Kung wala yun, wala nito.
Ayan, from the video, it can be inferred na hindi tayo kailangan ng nature. Tayo ang may kailangan sa kanila para mabuhay. Hence, we have to do something to hamper different human activities harmful to the environment. Also, we have to conserve wildlife and protect their habitat because this is where we all depend. For the objectives of this presentation, we must be able to, first, describe the terms that are linked on national parks and wildlife conservation. Another, discuss the concepts related on the conservation of national parks and wildlife, and explain the importance of national parks and wildlife conservation on human life. Let's begin with national parks. Protecting and maintaining biological diversities, particularly on areas with unique features, is inherently important to sustain the flora and fauna of a country. Relative to this, in the Philippines, there are declared protected areas so as to hamper the incessant degradation of the resources within that area. However, continuous pa rin ang iba sa kanilang illegal activities sa mga locally declared na protected areas. Hence, to effectively secure the natural resources for the present and future generations of the country, this result for the establishment of National Integrated Protected Area System, or also called as NIPAS. The protected areas under the NIPAS are classified as national parks. To clear it out, not all protected areas are national parks, but all national parks are protected areas. Merong mga locally declared na protected areas para ma-minimize ang impact ng iba't ibang human activities sa mga lugar na may local significance. However, they are not considered as national parks. For a protected area to qualify as national park, it has to undergo tedious assessment before it is declared as one of the national parks that are of national significance. The protected area should have technical description, resource profile, land and water use plans, also background studies. Likewise, it has to undergo suitability assessment, public consultation, and it should have ethnographic survey to qualify as national park. The national parks are unique areas and biologically important lands that are habitats of rare and threatened species. Ginagawa natin ang paraan para mapanatili ang kaayusan ng national parks dahil dito nakadepende ang buhay ng mga endangered and threatened species. There are 6 categories of protected areas that are considered as national parks. From these categories, nalalaman natin kung ano ang characteristics ng area at mga pwede at di pwedeng gawin. These are the following. For the first category, we have here natural biotic area. These are areas set aside to allow the way of life of societies living in harmony with the environment to adapt to modern technology at their pace. Pinapayagan dito na may manirahan sa protected area subject for existing rules and regulations. Another category is natural park. This area is relatively large, not materially altered by human activity, and is maintained to protect outstanding natural and scenic areas that are of national and international significance. Extracting resources from this area is not allowed. However, this can be used for scientific, educational, and recreational purposes. Another category is protected landscape or seascape. These are areas of national significance which are characterized by the harmonious interaction of man, land, and water while providing opportunities for public enjoyment. The national park classified under this category can be used for recreation, tourism, and economic activities. Another category is resource reserve. These are relatively isolated area and uninhabited, which is difficult to access and is designated to protect the natural resources for the future use. Pinagbabawalan dito ang kahit anuman na development activities na makakaapekto sa mga resources na matatagpuan dito. Another category, strict nature reserve. This area possess some outstanding ecosystem features and species of flora and fauna of national scientific importance that should be maintained to protect and preserve nature and its undisturbed state. This is done para ma-ensure ang availability ng area at ng species within that area for the maintenance of genetic resources na very important when it comes to the scientific aspect. The last category is wildlife sanctuary. This area assures the natural conditions necessary to protect the nationally significant species which may require scientific human manipulations for their perpetuations. The national park under this category contains species that are endangered at kinakailangan ng human intervention para mapanatili sila. There are a total of 94 protected areas declared as national parks in the Philippines. From these 94 protected areas, 11 of which are found in Bicol region. May isa sa Albay, the Mount Mayon Natural Park, isa rin sa Catanduanes, the Catanduanes Natural Park. Sa Camarines Norte, merong dalawa, Bicol Natural Park and Abasig Matugdon Mananap Natural Biotic Area. Sa Sorsogon, may isa, the Bulusan Volcano Natural Park. Sa Camarines Sur, merong 4. Isa dito is yung Buhi Wildlife Sanctuary. The Lagonoy Natural Biotic Area, Mount Isarog Natural Park, at Malabungot Protected Landscape and Seascape. Sa Masbate naman, they have 2 declared national park, the Bongsanglay Natural Park and Ticao Burias Pass Protected Seascape. Isa-isahin natin. Again, In Albay, we have one national park, the Mount Mayon Natural Park. This covers 8 cities or municipalities, and this is very popular for having a perfect cone shape. Likewise, Mount Mayon is a habitat of rare kingfisher and tree fern species. For Catanduanes, they have also one national park which is called Catanduanes Natural Park. This is larger than Mount Mayon Natural Park with an area of 48,924 hectares. This is known to have the biggest old growth forest in Bicol region. In Camarines Norte, they have two national park, the Bicol Natural Park and Abasig Matogdon Mananap Natural Biotic Area. Bicol Natural Park covers 4 municipalities. For its special feature, it has the largest lowland dipterocarp forest in Bicol, meaning it is inhabited by tall hardwood trees. On the other hand, the Abasig Matogdon Mananap Natural Biotic Area covers 5,918 hectares, and this is inhabited by endangered species of Rafflesia, bleeding heart pigeon, and pitcher plant. The Sorsogon is graced with one national park, and this is called Bulusan Volcano Natural Park. It covers 5 cities or municipalities, and this is known for its lake ecotourism and metallic kingfisher. For Camarines Sur, as I have mentioned a while ago, they have 4 national park, the Buhi Wildlife Sanctuary, Lagonoy Natural Biotic Area, Mount Isarog Natural Park, and Malabungot Protected Landscape and Seascape. For Buhi Wildlife Sanctuary, it only covers 2 municipalities. Regarding its special feature, it is the home of the smallest commercially harvested fish, which is considered a threatened species. This is locally known as sinarapan or Mysticis luzonensis. Another protected area in Camarines Sur is the Lagonoy Natural Biotic Area. It only covers 443 hectares. Yung pinagmamalaki nila dito is the scenic view at the top of the mountain, Bulabugan Falls, and the Serpent Eagle. The Mount Isarog Natural Park, on the other hand, covers 10 municipalities. This is a good water source and inhabited by endangered species of pit viper and rafflesia. Also in Camarines Sur, the Malabungot Protected Landscape and Seascape. This is the smallest national park in Bicol, which covers a total area of 148 hectares located in one municipality. This protected area has a good coral reef condition, a scenic view, and white-breasted wood swallow can also be found. The province of Masbate has two declared national park, the Bongsanglay Natural Park and Ticao-Burias Pass Protected Seascape. For Bongsanglay Natural Park, this has a total land area of 518 hectares and situated in one municipality. The special feature of this protected area is its old-growth mangrove species. In addition to this, Bongsanglay Natural Park is actually declared as second runner-up all throughout the Philippines during the prestigious 2019 Para El Mar Best Mangrove Award. On the other hand, the Ticao-Burias Pass Protected Seascape is the largest national park in Bicol region covering 16 municipalities in the provinces of Masbate, Albay, Camarines Sur, and Sorsogon. The largest part of this protected area is in Masbate, kaya it is considered located in the said province. This has a total land area of 414,244 hectares and contains rich marine biodiversity. Other areas with unique physical features, anthropological significance, and high biological diversity may be proposed for inclusion as part of the national park under the National Integrated Protected Area System or the NIPAS. Of course, it shall undergo the same procedure for legislative enactment. For the administration and management, The national parks are under the control and administration of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. To strictly implement laws or policies towards the protection of national parks, every national park is governed by the Protected Area Management Board or the PAMB, which is composed of the following: the Protected Area Superintendent, or also called as PASU. He or she is the primary accountable to the PAMB for the management and protection or operations of the protected area. Also included is the DNR Regional Director, where the PA or protected area is located. The Governor of the province, kung nasan yung protected area. Senator, who is a resident where the protected area is located. District representatives, mayor or mayors of the cities or municipalities, barangay captains of the area. Aside from this, regional directors of the following agencies are also included: the Department of Agriculture, the National Economic and Development Authority, the Department of Science and Technology, the Philippine National Police, and the Department of National Defense. They also have representatives from non-government organizations or people's organizations with track record related to protected area management. Also included are representatives from indigenous people present in the area. Also included are representative from academic institution and representative from private sector where the protected area is located. There must be a management plan for every national park because a management plan serves as the long-term framework plan that guides the operation for the national park. Management plan should promote the adoption and implementation of innovative management techniques. This should be harmonized on the existing plans of indigenous people, the CLUP or the Comprehensive Land Use Plan of local governments, and other local plans. To secure and hamper unwanted human activities, the following are the prohibited acts in the national park. To wit, number one is poaching or killing wildlife within the protected area, collecting or taking wildlife without necessary permit, gathering timber without authorization. Another is transporting resources outside the protected area, using harvesting gear that destroy the marine life or terrestrial habitats. Another is throwing hazardous substances that can be detrimental to the species on the protected area. Engaging in kaingin, which may cause forest fire. Also, littering on the ground or bodies of water. Constructing structures without permission from the Protected Area Management Board or the PAMB, and introducing exotic species as this could alter the balance of the protected area. Violating any of the above-mentioned restrictions corresponds for a penalty. The fine ranges from not less than 50,000 but not more than 5 million, or imprisonment from 1 year but not more than 12 years, or both depending on the violation. That is all for national parks. For the second part of the discussion, let us hear from Miss Christine BAYNA.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Bayna, and I'll be discussing about wildlife conservation. A while ago, Sir Carlo discussed about national parks, wherein its main purpose is to protect the natural environment of the area and conservation of biodiversity. Before we proceed, let us first define the terms wildlife and conservation. When we speak of wildlife, this pertains to wild forms and varieties of flora and fauna in all developmental stages, including those which are in captivity or are being bred or propagated. Traditionally, this refers to undomesticated animal species but has come to include all organisms that grow or live wild in an area without being introduced by humans. In short, these are organisms that are not living under human control. On the other hand, conservation refers to the preservation and sustainable utilization of wildlife. This includes maintenance, restoration, and enhancement of their habitat. When it comes to wildlife conservation, there were already efforts from government and non-government organizations. There are policies, rules, and regulations enacted to conserve wildlife. In the Philippines, we have the Republic Act No. 9147, which is also known as the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act. The main goal of wildlife conservation is to promote ecological balance and enhance biological diversity for sustainability. Here, we will be discussing the general provision or existing policies about collection of wildlife, possession of wildlife, exportation or importation of wildlife, introduction of exotic wildlife, scientific research on wildlife and commercial breeding or propagation of wildlife resources. Let us discuss them one by one. For the collection of wildlife, the collection of wildlife may be allowed under certain conditions. First, appropriate and acceptable wildlife collection techniques shall be used. Second, there are no detrimental effects to the existing wildlife population and their habitats. Third, the collection and utilization shall not cover threatened species. What are these threatened species? These are wildlife whose population is at risk of extinction. Examples of threatened species in the Philippines are Philippine eagle and tamaraw. For the possession of wildlife, no person or entity shall be allowed in possessing wildlife unless that person can prove his or her capability or capacity to maintain the said wildlife. For the exportation or importation of wildlife, wildlife species may be exported to or imported from another country, provided that it is authorized and is subject to strict compliance. For the introduction of exotic wildlife, no exotic species shall be introduced into the country unless a clearance from the authority is obtained. In no case shall exotic species be introduced into protected areas. What is an exotic species and why is its introduction prohibited? Exotic species are species that does not naturally occur in a country. When a new and aggressive species is introduced into an ecosystem, it may not have any natural predators or controls. Therefore, it can breed and spread quickly, taking over an area. Invasive species can change the food web in an ecosystem by destroying or replacing native food resources. For scientific research on wildlife, the collection and utilization of biological resources for scientific research and not for commercial purposes shall be allowed upon the execution of an agreement and issuance of a gratuitous permit. Therefore, it is a must to secure a clearance or permit before conducting research on wildlife. For commercial breeding or propagation of wildlife resources, the breeding or propagation of wildlife for commercial purposes shall be allowed by the authority through the issuance of wildlife farm or culture permit. The same as with research on wildlife, commercial breeding or propagation of wildlife resources is allowed provided that a permit is issued. To effectively conserve wildlife species that are threatened, they are classified as critically endangered, vulnerable, or other accepted categories based on the best scientific data and with due regard to internationally accepted criteria. The list of categorized threatened wildlife in the country can be found in the DNR Administrative Order No. 2004-15, which is all about establishing the list of terrestrial threatened species and their categories, and the list of other wildlife species pursuant to Republic Act No. 9147, otherwise known as the Wildlife Resources Conservation and Protection Act of 2001. Examples of threatened species under DNR Administrative Order No. 2004-15 are the following: the leatherback turtle, Isarog shrew mouse, and the Philippine warty pig. We also have the DNR Administrative Order No. 2017-11, which is all about the updated national list of threatened Philippine plants and their categories. Example of threatened species under DNR Administrative Order No. 2017-11 are the following: Nara, Palawan Bicol, and Mondoro pine. This is updated as the need arises. Their categories are based on substantial scientific information on the species. Knowing the status of a species is helpful to identify the threats and apply appropriate management action for the concerned species. We've discussed a while ago about the existing policies on wildlife conservation. The question now is what happens to those violators. We have wildlife enforcement officers that have the full authority to seize illegally traded wildlife and to arrest violators subject to existing laws, rules, and regulations on arrest and detention. Usually, all the confiscated, abandoned, and or donated wildlife is taken to a wildlife rescue center. This wildlife rescue center takes temporary custody and ensure the welfare and well-being of this wildlife. Regarding illegal acts on wildlife, this pertains on activities that exploit wildlife resources and their habitats. The said acts are stipulated in the law to prevent further degradation of habitat and reduce the number of species becoming threatened. Some of the illegal acts include killing wildlife species, inflicting injury which impairs the reproductive system of wildlife species, dumping of waste products detrimental to wildlife, trading of wildlife, and maltreating of wildlife. In case someone has committed any violation on wildlife, the penalty is imprisonment for a minimum of 1 month to 12 years and or a fine of 5,000 pesos to 5 million pesos. That's all po for wildlife conservation. Before we end, please take a look at this short video. With the different human efforts to protect national parks and conserve wildlife, it does suggest that it is inherently important because it provides us with different natural services and supports human life. Let us be reminded that extinct species can never be replaced, and this extinction can set off a chain reaction which could affect many others. In this regard, participating in the different PPAs for the protection of natural parks and conservation of wildlife is an incredibly significant act that can contribute for the betterment of our future. After all, we are all connected to the wild. Here are our references. And in behalf of Sir Carlo, we thank you all for listening.